again. Chuck Wilder here. Let me tell you about my guest, Kimberly Dvorak, D-V-O-R-A-K. She is award-winning national security and border security investigative reporter for TV, radio, and the print media. Kimberly is also the senior foreign policy advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy. She is a TV correspondent, CW6 News San Diego, as well as One America News Network, and her website is thekdreport.com. Thekdreport.com. Kimberly, how are you?
I'm fine. How about yourself, Chuck?
Pretty good. You know, when you go out and vote more than once, you know, you're going to get tired. I shouldn't have said that again.
Well, I think, isn't it a law in California now that you have to vote like at least 5 times?
It probably is, as long as you're not standing in a crowd of over 20, I guess. Like that.
Or it could just be your 5 personalities. You have got a great personality, so then you just show up the second time with your not so great personality.
That's right, yeah, split personality. You know, I just came out of the hospital. Guess what? I get to vote twice. But no, you have to register. Anyway, hey, let me tell you an interesting friend of mine, Rick Manning. He's head of Americans for Limited Government, makes a lot of TV appearances, especially on One America News.
Mm-hmm.
And he came out with a cartoon, and he had him put it out, and I love the thing on it. It's like, vote for Trump. Less mobs, more jobs. Pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one, for sure.
More jobs, yes.
Well, and as we see the cities, you know, major cities across the country all, you know, boarding up their businesses because they're afraid that the mob is going to come out and riot and go on another looting spree in the name of the Democrats, I suppose, because it's not the Trump voters that they're arresting that are doing this. So, you know, I guess maybe a little early Christmas shopping for the crowd. But yeah, D.C. is in complete lockdown. Hold it,
Kimberly, I dare you. Christmas shopping.
Yeah.
They've already told you it's reparations?
Reparations. I'm sorry, early reparations shopping then, day. Or it could actually become a new holiday, kind of like Trump actually proclaimed November 1st yesterday, you know, a day of remembrance for people who were actually killed by illegal aliens, which got not a lot of coverage, but yeah, I wanted to mention that here today because I think that it's something that, you know, is important, and I think that the president, you know, has taken notice of that fact, and very early in his 2016 campaign, which I covered, that he really embraced the moms and the dads of, you know, these parents and mothers and fathers. They've lost, you know, loved ones due to, you know, criminal aliens that should not even been in this country in the first place. So that was nice to see the president do that. But, you know, what we're seeing, you know, that's, you know, going to be a mild thing that's going to take place here moving forward, because this country is bracing for, you know, depending on where the vote lies at the end of the day on Tuesday, we'll see what happens. But they are expecting large scale rioting and protesting, even in the, you know, Washington D.C. area.
Yeah, I have a guest that comes on, immigration guest, and his website, you know, lists every day. It just keeps building up and up and up and up, and it's the amount of Americans killed by illegal aliens. You know?
Yeah.
And most of them are drunk drivers. You know,
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe
Yeah.
how many drunk drivers.
Yeah. Well, that, and then there's also NC Fire, which is in North Carolina. They have a website that every month that they faithfully put out how many children have been molested, you know, by illegal aliens again. And you read, you know, they list the names and the crimes that they're accused of, and, you know, and again, those children would not have been in that position if these people weren't in the country. So, you know, it's more than just, you know, murder. I mean, but they're harming children as well. But apparently that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things for the Democrat Party, because that's just another voter for them.
And so this will be another first for Trump, and I guess every November 1st, it'll be the recognition. For it,
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing. It's a good thing, and it's a good day. You know, he wasn't able, I think, to get the legislation that he wanted on this, but at least he did something. And it's a good thing. It really is.
And this election is so important. And you think of the things that Trump did and accomplished that they want to reverse. And one of them is, and it's very important, I think the average citizen, what I'm leading up to is regulations, Kimberly. And I think the average American citizen doesn't say, oh, well, I can't screw in a new light bulb, but this way because there's a new because there's a regulation or something to do with it. In fact, come to think of it, and I was just using that for an example, like you can't turn it right or turn it left, there's a new regulation. But he even did that on those fluorescent bulbs that Obama and them came in and said we're getting rid of.
Well, if those break, then you have to call in like hazmat if those new wave I mean those are very, very bad if young children are around and something breaks. I mean it's unbelievable what these people that have never had any kind of business experience, had never had to sign the front of the check so people actually got paid, and what it takes to be in business. And that was one of the reasons I know that President Trump was elected the first time. And when we look at these issues, he has gone, these are ludicrous, and it's another expense that gets passed down to the consumer. And it happens all the time. And, what he simply did is go and said, okay, we've had issues with this. He, dispersed a whole bunch of different people who specialized in regulations, and they went in and they actually cleaned out a whole bunch of regulations, which actually is helpful for business. And, if the country flips the other way here, they're going to go back and they're going to it's going to be a tit for tat, and it's going to set the country up, I think. For every time we change parties in the White House, it's going to be a tit for tat, rather than looking at what's best for this country and seeing, that, we really need to believe in America first. And, we need to make sure that we're supporting American businesses and manufacturing plants and such. We need to bring a lot of those people home. By doing that, you have to, let some of these regulations go so you can encourage them to come home.
Oh, they were doing things, especially when you get into land and water. You couldn't collect rainwater in a barrel because you didn't own it. It belonged to the government. I'm not joking about that. Okay, Ron Ewart, the guy that's an expert on that stuff. I mean, that was one of the regulations. And they would have control of any running water that maybe it was caused by rain.
Yeah.
So that meant any little water that went under the bridges, let's say on an interstate, the government had control of those bridges because there was water going underneath. Yeah. I mean, it's a slippery slope, and he got away with it. And I think he got a lot of kickbacks, if you want to know the truth. Yeah. And one of the most serious things that we can touch on is, the way Biden keeps wanting to push, like, you didn't act fast enough on coronavirus. Well, we already know that's a false, that he did act fast enough. And then I never said, that you were racist. Whenever I said, I tell you to close those people from coming in here from China. But you see, talk about jobs. Look at all of the medical, just the medical that's coming out of China.
Yep. And do we want to trust China? I mean, do we trust that they're not just going to taint, medicines that we import from their country? I mean, I just think that this virus, I mean, again, I know we've talked about this, but, it opened up our eyes to, I didn't realize how many of our antibiotics were made in China. How many of our medical supplies were made in China, and that we weren't self-sufficient on this front, and we're getting there quickly, and we're trying to get more manufacturing plants and everything open. And I think the president's doing a decent job with trying to encourage people to come back and actually highlighting the fact that something that most of us didn't know, that we weren't manufacturing our own medications, cancer drugs, whatever it may be. So when you look at the issues at hand, the Democrats really can't come at him on policy things that he's done wrong. It's just like, oh, there are people that have been infected, it's record numbers. They don't mention that these people aren't dying from coronavirus. and that, a lot of people now were going in and they're the asymptomatic people that have corona. So it's just, again, it just, they're going after, they're nitpicking, but they're not coming out and saying, here's a policy of what I'm going to do to ensure that we can, ensure that COVID doesn't ever happen in this country again. Here's, they have no policy plans on any of this. It's just all against the president, and that's all they really care about right now.
Now, speaking of policy, all right, listener, Kimberly is the senior foreign policy advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy. Responsible is a very important word. Remember when your mom and dad said, you must be responsible? You're the one that kicked that plane over or whatever. You grabbed the kitty's tail. That's why you have a scratch mark. That's my own personal stuff I'm putting out, but I shouldn't be. But here it is. I was waiting to give you this one. A Biden win question mark. I saw this headline. China preparing for the Biden administration with sanctions over U.S. companies. Are you ready for this? Over the ones that supported Taiwan.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. I mean, China is looking at this, for most people that aren't like, foreign policy junkies. I'm kind of a junkie when it comes to foreign policy. China was considered middle kingdom. So the earth and everybody around, everything revolved around China. They ran the world, in essence, centuries. Now they aren't running the world, and they want to get back to that state. So they're slowly doing it. They don't have to do this next week. They have their plan in place, and if it takes them 50 years to get there, they'll get there because they're patient. And they're slowly doing this, and they're slowly buying American businesses. They're slowly buying American land. They're slowly buying, patents and rare earth minerals and things of this nature. So when that day comes, then they'll be able to, say, okay, well, America, must have been a great experiment you guys had for, 3 centuries, but no longer, and we're not going to be, letting you live here. We're going to throw you into some internment camps because, you know what, we've decided to take your land, it's fertile, and we're going to, come in and, whether it's, branch or farm, dig for rare earth minerals, which is in this country is basic. It's very difficult to do that in this country due to the EPA and all of the regulations again on this. Yeah. But they'll use it to completely just, rape the country of all of its natural resources in essence. So
well, I'll tell you, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and they if it takes them 5 years, 50 years, they're going to do that. They have that mission, and we're doing right now nothing really to stop that. And I think that the one thing that COVID has kind of done with a lot of people is they realized that, hey, wait a minute, this global nature that America has to be in Germany, we have to be all over the world and protect and be the world's police while this country falls apart. They're like, wait a minute, America first doesn't sound so bad right about now. So I think that if we have to look at some sort of bright side on this, I think that that's where we're going to go.
Well, and I'll just point out, back to this Taiwan situation, because if you've been going to public schools in America, you probably know nothing about this.
Yeah.
But China and Taiwan, they split in 1949, and Taiwan decided we don't want to act like communists, okay? And that made China mad. But see, just recently, and I have it here, we had a weapons agreement from the U.S. State Department. All right, this was last week, I think.
Yep.
Where we are selling self-ruled Taiwan sensors, missiles, and artillery. And it's about $1.8 billion. But see, if Joe comes in, no, as I was saying, a Biden administration, they want to punish the people, that had anything to do with getting that protection to Taiwan.
Yeah. They will. They won't. And, when China decides to raise its iron fist on, Taiwan, it won't be pretty. And they're not very polite about it. Look what they've done to the Uyghurs in China. I mean, they literally have them in, in slave internments, re-education camps, literally. We know this, and they're one of the, greatest human rights violators as a nation. So, this is a country that, we want to work with, but we need to know our enemy, and that's why we need to work with them, because they are our enemy. But when you look at the globalism and you look at what we've done for foreign policy really over the last several decades, is it's basically we're the world's police, and we need to make sure we're at war with all these different people, so we all have the same. They're gonna look at us and go, oh my God, we love America because they came in and they helped us become a freedom-loving country, which hasn't happened anywhere, but they're hopeful that somewhere that will happen, namely in Afghanistan, which we see now it's just going to go back to the way it was right after Russia left, and it's going to go right back to where it was, because these people just don't want democracy, and the American people are hurting. And with the economy coming back, it's a great thing it's coming back, but you need to keep this rolling. And if your first thing is that you're going to set on your agenda is you're going to raise taxes on people in this country, you're going to throw back more regulations, you're going to allow business and corporations to take their businesses here and go overseas, or somewhere else other than the United States or Mexico, because it's just too expensive, that's not helping. That's why in Pennsylvania you see that this is going to be a battleground state. This is one of the reasons.
Oh yeah, where you've got the Google, Facebook, Twitter doing a lot. I think Russia would never catch up with those three, would they?
Yeah.
If they were going to throw an election.
Okay, so I've got an election thing in a nutshell. I was a little hyped. I watched, except for the one rally, I watched the other all 4 rallies yesterday. So I went and looked up the numbers here. So going into tomorrow, election day, we have Michigan, Trump is up 2.5 points. North Carolina, 2.1. Pennsylvania, plus 1.9. Ohio, 3.7. Iowa, 7. And that was from the Trafalgar poll, and that's one of the polling outfits last time that got the election right. And also in there's 3 key voting blocks that we're looking at. Independents is the big one, and those are the ones most likely haven't voted. Trump is plus 2.5. Blacks, it looks like Biden's going to get somewhere around 68, which is a lot less than Hillary Clinton's 85. That could sink him in and of itself. And Trump is up 1 with Latinos. And those polls come from Investor Business Daily, which is an outfit that really doesn't like Trump whatsoever. So we're seeing the polls, and we're seeing the numbers turn. The president's a closer. Everybody needs to go out and vote, and be prepared that most likely it's there's going to be a bit of controversy, just because that's what the media is going to do, and they're going to want that in their coverage, and they're going to push the election to go longer than it probably should. So we're prepared for that. But I think that when we look at tomorrow, the people that are causing wreaking the havoc in this country, they didn't vote for President Trump. And I think for people, they need to keep that in mind. And I think a lot of them are there. So I mean, don't be surprised if these numbers are a lot bigger in Trump's in his another 5 campaign stops today. I mean, incredible for a man that just had COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and as we said at the beginning, less mobs, more jobs if you vote for Trump.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Curtis Lewa?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, he has the Guardian Angels, and they're going out. Usually they're up around New York, right? But I'm looking. They're going out and they're going to say, hey, just watch out. Oh, New York City, Washington, D.C., Portland, Chicago, Denver, Tampa, Baltimore, and Cleveland. They're going to be there. Say, go ahead. We're waiting for you.
Yeah.
And, think about this. I mean, listener, have you ever seen an election for the President of the United States where you have to board up your businesses because you're afraid, that if he wins, you're going to be attacked?
Yeah.
I mean, what in the world have they done to us?
Yeah. Well, and they're planning on storming the White House on election eve if the numbers don't start coming in. And so the district downtown, they put up, special fencing that you can't climb to protect the White House, and businesses have boarded up. And then you've got Metro PD, all of their office. I mean, they're prepared for this. They're planning for this. But really, after an election, this is what, if they don't get their way, they're going to riot? I mean, doesn't seem like,
I know.
it's just sad. Very
It'll be
sad.
worse than the hanging chads, Kimberly. Worse than the hanging chads.
I hope not.
That's been on forever and had to be determined by the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, he really meant to vote for me, and the tap just didn't come out of the...
Yeah.
Okay.
And it'll probably be
Well,
Pennsylvania, though. It'll probably be Pennsylvania that will be the last state
that's
coming out.
All right. Thank you very much. Excellent report, as usual. Kimberly Dvorak. And she is the Senior Foreign Policy Advisor for the Committee for Foreign Policy. All right. And the website, thekdreport.com. We'll be back.